Okay, so we've talked about how to evaluate functions at numerical values, at numbers. And now we're going to talk about how we can actually evaluate functions at expressions. So we're going to look at this function right here. Oops. F of x equals 7x squared plus 5x plus 3. And the first value we want to find is f of 2x. So anywhere there's an x in our function, we're going to plug in 2x, and it's helpful to plug this in parentheses. So we're going to have 7 and then 2x squared plus 5 times 2x plus 3. Okay, and now we want to simplify this as much as possible. Our final answer will have x in it though. So we have 7. Now, what does 2x squared mean? It means 2x times 2x. I'm just going to bring the rest down. Okay, so when we actually multiply that together, we'll multiply the 2 times the 2, so that gives us 4, and then the x times the x, so that's x squared. Okay, and our last step to simplify here, we need to multiply this 7 times this 4, so that gives us 28x squared plus 10x plus 3. And since there aren't any other like terms that we can combine or anything like that, that is our final answer. F of 2x is equal to 28x squared plus 10x plus 3. And one common mistake I see students do is they'll then try to set it equal to 0 or plug something in, and you don't need to do any of that. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. We're leaving it just like that. So now with this same function, we want to find f of negative x. So everywhere there's an x, we're just going to plug in negative x. So we have 7 times negative x squared plus 5 times negative x plus 3. So again, I'll write this as negative x times negative x. And if you want to think about it as negative 1 times x, you can. So here when we square the negative x, we have negative 1 times negative 1, which becomes positive 1. And then x times x is x squared. This positive 5 times the negative 1 becomes negative 5x. And then we bring our 3 down. And so our final expression here is 7x squared minus 5x plus 3. That last step, I just multiplied the 7 times the 1. And that is what f of negative x is equal to. That would be our final answer. Okay, we're going to do 2 more here. Just so I still have the function when I scroll down, I'm going to write it here. So now we're going to look at 2 things that are a little more complicated, but still very doable. We're going to look at f of x plus 2, and then f of x plus h. So for f of x plus 2, again, everywhere there's an x, we're going to plug in x plus 2 in parentheses. So this means x plus 2 times x plus 2. So remember, oops, and you know what? I forgot here, this x here, I needed an x plus 2. So be very careful, make sure you get that in every place where there was an x. Now, when we want to square x plus 2, we can't just square the x and then square the 2. We have to multiply these binomials, and this is sometimes called FOIL, which stands for first, outside, inside, and last. And this is just in order to multiply the terms in the binomials, the 2 terms with 2 terms. So first, so we're going to write the 7, and we're going to start a set of parentheses. The first terms, we're going to take the x times the x, so x squared. And then our outside terms are the 2 outer ones, this x and this 2, so plus 2x. The inside ones, the I, are the ones that are close here, so plus 2x. And then the last terms, 2 times 2 is 4. And I like to draw it like this because visually, a student once told me that this looks, they call it the crab claw way. So if you get a claw like this, you've reached all the terms. Bring the rest down. And now to simplify it a little bit, I'm going to combine the like terms inside our parentheses. So I can combine those, the 2x and the 2x, and write it as x squared plus 4x plus 4. And I'll bring the rest down. Now I need to distribute this 7 out in front to every term in this first set of parentheses. So it'll be 7 times x squared, 7x squared, 7 times the 4x, so plus 28x, and the 7 times 4, so plus 28. Now I need to distribute this 5 to the two terms inside the parentheses, so plus 5x plus 10, and then we've got this plus 3. And the last thing we need to do is combine any like terms. We've only got one x squared term, so this will just be 7x squared. And we've got 28x plus 5x, so that is 33x. And then we have 28 plus 10 plus 3, which would be 38 plus 3 is 41. So our final answer to what f of x plus 2 is 7x squared plus 33x plus 41. Okay, now we're going to look at f of x plus h. And this will be very similar, except we won't have those 2's there. So we'll have 7x plus h squared plus 5 times x plus h plus 3. So again, we're going to have to FOIL out the x plus h times x plus h. Okay, so when we FOIL it, our first terms, x times x, gives us x squared. Our outside terms gives us xh. The inside terms give us xh. And the last terms, h times h, would be h squared. Okay, we can combine like terms here, the xh plus the xh. So 7x squared plus 2xh, because it's 1xh plus 1xh. Okay, and now again we need to distribute the 7. So 7x squared plus 14xh plus 7h squared. Now we'll distribute the 5. 5x plus 5h, and our last term here plus 3. And now we'll look and make sure there aren't any like terms, which there aren't, and so this whole expression would be what f of x plus h is equal to. So make sure you're plugging things in with parentheses, and you're FOILing when you're squaring something, and just make sure you're plugging your expression in everywhere where there was an x in your function.